Welcome to the Poor Sports Podcast. Familiar face back on screen. I guess last time it had your name on it, but it's Andrew Rivers is here. Before we get into your shit, I just got a voicemail line for this podcast. So if you're one of these people that likes to leave voicemails, the information is below, but it's 5303 sports is the number you can call. Leave a voicemail, send a text. And also, that also could stand for, by the way, I realized 530 or 530 esports. So if you want to do something that'll never be talked about on this podcast because we're boomers, you could do that. You could remember it that way. Andrew Rivers, comedian Andrew Rivers, back on the podcast. Two-time guest, maybe the first two-time guest.
What a joyous occasion to celebrate the potential return of Jamal Adams. I know you've been asking for it. I've been asking for it. And it's probably coming to fruition.
Oh man, yeah, two Seahawks two of our old friends are having big days. Jamal Adams gets released at his request, by the way. That's kind of an interesting part of that. No, there's got to be a part of being a defensive back in football that requires the kind of ego that's like, even though nobody wants me and everyone thinks I suck, I'm just one release and a new opportunity away from, turning it all around.
There's a born every minute, I mean, You still get booked for comedy shows, so
you booked me recently to open for you. You're the fuck up in this scenario. Yeah,
you're the Jamal Adams of the Seattle comedy scene, often injured and cannot keep up with the top receivers anymore. But
I've also made just tens of millions of dollars doing comedy. So.
That's true.
What is that? It's October 25th that we're doing Ricardo's and Lacey. Is that right? October?
Baby. Yeah, you got a busy calendar. I felt bad and booked you because I thought no one else loved you, but you got a bigger schedule than I do right now. So
yeah, I'm all over. I am staying in the Pacific Northwest. Not like by choice, I will say that. Like I would happily fly somewhere.
If someone gave me an offer, I would. Oh, sorry, this was my reminder to do this podcast.
I like how your reminder came in 6 minutes late. By the way,
well, you said 3 p.m., so I said it in case you didn't text me. But yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, so yes, any one of those gigs I'll happily cancel if a headlining gig out of town pops up. But I've flown significantly less this year. I'm losing my MVP status this year because, I mean, dude, it's like you're facing similar plight at a higher level where it's like everybody's bringing their own opener, and nobody's headlining me. Like, and for you, I think it's like obviously you're on the next tier up. Where it's
I'm just kind of making my own, opportunities, and then I get whatever scraps are left over,
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And I've figured out like I've made pretty good money still just being semi-local for a big chunk. Don't get me wrong, I did like a bunch of road gigs. Mm-hmm. Some of them I drove to, some of them that I maybe
you're very popular, and
I'm so fucking heavily booked. I'm in demand, Andrew. You have a couple of local shows coming up. Do you want to plug those before we get too far before I forget? Because I will forget. You're not going to plug them?
Oh, I thought you were going to plug.
Just, well, let me tell you
with Casey McLean and Courtney Brennan, I think is her last name. I don't remember.
Oh yeah, I know Courtney.
Just gonna bang Brett's old girlfriend, but
no. Everyone that listens to this podcast knows who Brent is, so that helps. The intersection of people who know Brent James Driscoll and like Seattle sports.
I thought you would spend at least 6 hours talking about the guy trying to steal all your camera gigs in town.
Oh, I'm so happy there's people that do camera and audio now. It was like whenever that would come around, I'd feel obligated because I wanted people to get good video and audio, but like I was. I always tell those people, I'm like, I am not a videographer. I am not an audio guy by trade. So I'm happy to do this, but
he's
don't ever
barely a comedian also. So
I know. I'm almost a lot of things.
Lucky 7 in Kirkland, November 2nd, which isn't that election day or something like that? So.
Oh yeah, I think that's right. No, it's November 5th. You're doing it on a Tuesday? Election's on a Tuesday.
Oh, that's right. Mine's November 2nd. So
this is a guy with politics all through his act and doesn't know what day of the week the election occurs.
We vote like a month ahead of time by mail.
That's true.
So.
That's true. We are. Yeah, I vote 6 or 7 times to be honest with you. So that's I sprinkle them out throughout the month of November and October. I'm like,
Don't get suspicious. Yeah.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, my other big one is Renton Bickerson's Brewhouse is on Saturday, and it's like maybe the best show we've booked the whole time. Monica Nevi headlining, gonna be a great show. We had Andrew on it. Tough to say that in front of you. Yeah, we have a hell of a show. So come on out to that.
I agree. I love Monica. What's funny too was seeing Monica is like, I think we did that Taste of Tacoma thing, and then people don't know she's gay. Like it's a weird thing.
Yeah.
People just walk out when she's not like brainwash. Her act is not like, I'm gay and I'm proud. She's like, yeah, my wife. And then people go, oh, I would never. And then they leave. And I'm always like, we're still out here. That's crazy.
I know. Well, it's funny about Monica is like, she wasn't out for a long time. But if you put the pieces together, if you start doing the math, you're like, she's super into women's sports.
She's watching a lot of WNBA.
So, yeah, that's like, I mean, maybe we're not very good at math in this area, but for people to be shocked to find out that yeah, Monica's great. She's very funny. And,
very funny.
And I will say, like, if this is a thing that bothers you, she talks about relationships very similarly to how straight comedians do, with jokes and not like
my bitch wife over here. Oh.
Anyway, okay. So I mean, obviously the story you led off with is Jamal Adams gets released. Do you have any desire to see him back in Seattle? Do you think when that trade happened? I remember. I'll tell you why I liked it. I thought it was an overpay the day of, not as severe an overpay as it ended up being. But the reason I liked it is because I thought we were in like the final year or maybe 2 years of Pete Carroll's career. And it's like, you got an iconic coach. You have a potential Hall of Fame quarterback who is maybe exiting his prime or reaching the end of his prime, which turned out to be pretty true. Do everything you can to win in that period, and then you can rebuild later. And maybe it'll be very painful. And I think what the Seahawks did, and they've kind of done this historically, is they've leveled out the pain a little bit. It's like been over a lot of years. Do you actually want Jamal Adams back, or are we fucking around?
Well, I saw report that he's a real glue guy. Like he really holds the locker room together. And what's that? Oh, sorry, he's made of glue. He's held together by glue. It was the actual report.
Did you, when you were a kid, did your dad ever say that they were going to take you to the glue factory, like as a horse?
No.
They would shoot you. And this might be a morbid thing. So horses apparently used to get turned into glue. And so my dad, his euphemism for death, because we're a, fucking waspy, but not like classy waspy family, is he would say going to the glue factory.
Maybe it's because you weighed as much as a horse, but
I was so skinny at that time, you piece of shit. Oh,
what?
My favorite thing about you can't imagine that I ever was skinny. That's the funny. Like you just think I came out of my mom at 200 pounds.
If you get Ozempic, I might not recognize you next time. I saw Fat Joe is on Ozempic, and good for that guy. He's also raising.
That's the extent of the.
Just shout
good
out
for that guy.
We need him to play right tackle. I wish you'd get off that Ozempic.
Yeah, put on 45 pounds and get out here, Joe.
Yeah. I think Jamal, the Twitter guys I follow all say that he's only played 20 snaps this year and he's looked somewhat explosive. What's one more guy that doesn't know how to play football in the back end of our defense? So, I think if my fear is that he's just got too much bad blood here, where he's already called a reporter's wife ugly, and he's had bad memories. The fans all hate him. So even if we brought him back, I don't think he would have a great time with like the press and stuff. So I think it might be best to move on, but we're so hurting for defensive bodies but it's always that it's tempting because you're like, look what he used to be able to do. And it's like, well, he's just not that dude anymore, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because there's all these, like, before he got traded here, there was all this criticism of he just has like no, he's got like stone hands, this dude, and all the athletic feats that he could do, he just like could not catch. And by the way, like, it's maybe the dumbest, like, most simple fan view is like judging every defensive back off the amount of interceptions they have. But you're like, what? I mean, I think there was a point where he had like maybe 2 after 5 seasons or something like that, and you're like, oh, dude, what is And then you would see the lowlights of him dropping passes, and there was a couple times in Seattle where the ball just like hit him directly in the face mask. It was like,
That's how to win that Browns game is just throw your body into the passing window.
Yeah, I think that the Rayshon Jenkins, he went to IR, but I just don't think that this is like. I think the league moved on from Jamal Adams, and I think he was probably overrated when the league hadn't moved on from him yet, and now, like, by the way, this is quite a view. We're starting to see the leg creep up. It's turning into an OnlyFans account very quickly. Oh my God, okay, now WikiFeet's got you. I know they have you after that.
This whole YouTube channel is flagged, but
yeah, I'm there's no part of me. I think it's the end of the road for Jamal Adams.
Yeah, I wonder about because he was with Quandre also there. They were homies, and so it's like, what couldn't you make work over there?
Sure.
You never know what's going on. You know, I think of the Seahawks. This is every team, but you just have some bad luck, and it ruins the whole kit and caboodle. You know, he ended up getting hurt a couple times, and then he broke his fingers in preseason, and they were like, we'll just glue them together. Speaking of glue factory. So then he was trying to catch passes like this the whole time. And you know, the Percy Harvin trade, the Jimmy Graham, every 5 years, this team just has to go all in on a player that has a uniquely specific set of skills, and then we refuse to use them like that.
Yeah.
So we're like, we're going to make him a safety in a too high shell that rotates down. And you're like, no, just play him as a linebacker. And so I don't know, you know, it would be nice just because I think we could use more bodies, but, you know, I wouldn't count on it saving the season.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think my memory is like his injury was like patellar tendon.
Yeah.
Which is the worst one. It's like the one you don't even hear about because it makes ACL look like a you know, I don't know, tonsil
it's
removal
been a
or something.
full, like it was week 1 of that first Russ season, and then he just tried to come back halfway into last year. They played him a couple games, and then I just will never forget Debo running a post route, and he just stands there as Debo runs right by him for a 60-yard touchdown, which just looked like Julian Love the other day too. So, you know,
that was actually
that
image was a thumbnail of this podcast one week, was the Debo running past Jamal Adams. I want to say this looks like Kania, I think is the name here. It says I believe this couldn't even finish the word lie when I said that I used to be skinny. I think that, like, I don't know what the exact context was of when LI came onto the keyboard. Maybe it was trying to find the unsubscribe button and accidentally. But so Russ is in Pittsburgh obviously now.
Oh yeah.
The saga has continued into Pittsburgh, and it looks like he's going to start this week, which is, I'm a big Justin Fields fan. I did right before the podcast. Apparently, if he plays more than 51% of the snaps in Pittsburgh, the 6th round pick that they traded to Chicago for him becomes a 4th round pick. I can't imagine they would do something for the difference between it, do something like this exclusively for the 6th to 4th round jump. Also, like, they got to see Russ in camp, right? Like, they know what, this is the thing that bugs me, and it's actually happening with the Seahawks a lot. The Seahawks drafted a dude named Christian Haynes, guard, and people are like, give him reps, see what you've got. And fans always say that as though the staff isn't watching him in practice, seeing what they've got. You know what I mean?
We saw it. Yeah.
Yeah. Remember a couple years ago? I don't know if are you a Huskies fan? I can't remember what you're. Okay, so
I mean, I am, but I don't know anything about it.
Sure.
I root for professionals mostly.
Well, good news, Andrew. You can start rooting for college players.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, the Huskies had a dude named Sam Heward, which I'm sure you know the name Heward.
Yep, Brock
Hewards
Heward.
have been at Washington
radio
for
host
decades.
Seattle's ever had.
And people kept saying, you got to give him a chance, see what they have. And I kept being like, maybe you don't like the guy that's playing, but nobody sees more of Sam Heward than the coaching staff you're criticizing. You know what I mean? And
I wonder about that too, because especially, maybe not backup linebacker or backup, offensive lineman, but a backup quarterback doesn't get he's not getting a lot of snaps in actual practice. Now They can see him on his drill stuff for sure, but yeah, I mean, a lot of backups kind of go by the wayside, and then it's also possible to see them in practice and then they fuck up big time in the game. What was that Mike McDonald or the coach of the Miami Dolphins when the first start Tyler Huntley got, and he was like, that didn't look like what we did in practice. It's like,
yeah, it's Mike McDaniel.
I get him confused. Yeah,
I know, and I always want to call him McDaniels for some reason. Well, it's because who was the dude? There's Josh McDaniels, Mike McDaniel, and Mike McDonald.
Yeah,
that's a problem. Luckily, I think Josh McDaniels is out of football. I don't know.
And then old McDonald.
But so, do you
a good farm system?
Oh my God, this fucking guy. That is, I mean, October 25th, folks. More of that. If you want more of that, come see Andrew Rivers at Ricardo's in Lacey. So what you think Russ has anything left in the tank? We talked about, I mean, Jamal Adams doesn't seem to have anything left in the tank.
No, but I think Mike Tomlin, I think Russ is a bitch, he thinks that he's like the guy, and you have to be like, no, we run first offense, Pete Carroll, a little too happy. Russ thinks, I've earned a couple Pro Bowls and won a Super Bowl. I can start talking back to him. I can start demanding. He goes to Broncos. He's like, it's my way or the highway. They're like, let Russ cook. And then they go, oh, it's McDonald's for dinner. And then I think he's been humbled enough that maybe Mike Tomlin is the perfect coach to be like, shut the fuck up, hand the ball off and throw it on time to where I tell you to throw it. And, maybe that gets the best situation out of him.
Yeah, I think I got to tell you, I'm happy that it's like, if this happened where Justin Fields got replaced for a guy like Kirk Cousins, say, a white guy, let's say, I'm happy. This feels like a thing that in another scenario would be considered.
Black crime is out of control, Casey. Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm saying in this case, it's a relief, because I do think this is like Mike Tomlin is making what is going to be an unpopular decision with a lot of people for a while, but there's no part of this that you can look at it as anything but Mike Tomlin knows better, because he knows these players. He's seeing these guys. I like Justin Fields a lot, by the way. Like if not knowing at the time,
Justin Fields, you just don't trust him when you need to. You can trust him to kind of not fuck it up.
Sure.
But I don't think he's the guy when you're down 10 that you're like, we got to score and we got to throw. I just don't think. Like, he's had a couple lucky turnover plays, and
he makes big plays with his legs. I'll say
true.
And
Russ can still scoot a little bit, Like,
Sure.
if you give him a wide open, he's not going to do the twirly whoop-de-doos anymore. He'll do that into a 23-yard sack, but
Do you? I try to do that in Madden. I just get absolutely destroyed by the computer. That's all I play against is the computer.
I like Mike Tomlin, though. One of my favorite things is just that there's like a spammy Twitter account that's just like Mike Tomlin in the wild, and like he's like walking through a mall or something with his on, and people are like, "Yo, Mike, good luck on the game." He's like, "I'm fucking working," and they go, "Oh, okay." And it's like you need that guy. He's also like he's never had a losing season in like 16 years or something like that. So like, he could do Russ, if you give him a good defense, which they have in Pittsburgh, he cannot lose some games for you. So I don't know. I'm glad he's not on my team anymore. That's all.
You're glad Russ isn't on your team anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. When last offseason when the Seahawks fired Pete Carroll, there was uncertainty about Mike Tomlin's future in Pittsburgh at the time, and he was like my number one choice. If you could have given me anybody this offseason, Mike Tomlin would have been the guy. I'm happy with Mike McDonald or whatever, but I think Mike Tomlin's a great coach, and I think that if any coach in the NFL in 2024 that's still here, so not Belichick, obviously, but like coaches that are still coaching, if anyone has the credibility to tell Russ to shut the fuck up and do what I say, I think it's Mike Tomlin.
Yeah.
Do you think that Geno is the guy, the quote unquote guy?
Yes.
You do?
But I don't want to extend him.
Okay.
Everyone else, like some of my nerdy podcasts, I like him. I think he's a really good quarterback. If you point and shoot, he can get it. He knows where the ball is going to go. You see some of this freelancing stuff that gets him in trouble where they're like, Metcalf is just run the route. But sometimes when they go to that vertical thing, they unlock some cool shit. But I think Geno is a really good quarterback, and the problem, we've seen it, is if we have a decent right tackle, even that if you give him enough time, he will make the correct decision and keep you in the game. I mean, all of these losses we've had, it's just us shooting ourselves in the dick. It's like, oh, this guy flinched and that's a false start, and this guy is forgot to stop moving all of a sudden on a 60-yard touchdown, and it didn't even matter. I think eventually the NFL is going to be like, okay, illegal formation is fine. We got to stop calling this because it's ruining the game a little bit. But there has to be some compromise in that. But he's been able to, like, if you get a drive going and you like stop false starting and doing dumb shit, it's like he's really, he's capable. He's leading the league in passing. So like, imagine what he could do with proper structure. Now it's still to be determined. Can this new offensive coach, Ryan Grubb, is he going to be NFL caliber? Because like some of the nerds are saying, like, what
are the nerdy podcasts you listen to?
Well, I'm this guy Matty Brown on Twitter, and then this guy C Mike Spin Move is really funny.
They have a podcast together, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so and then like Seattle Overload, Cigar Thoughts is pretty good. He's mostly just a kind of fanboying, but yeah. So, but anyway, Geno can be the guy, but he's also like 38 years old. So like all these people that are like, you got to extend him now for $50 million or else Carolina will give him that deal. And I'm like, cool. Like, go. Like,
first off, he's 34 and a week old.
Yeah.
34 years and a week old. I think that the reason people are talking about an extension is because I think that he's probably not going to play on this contract. He's not going to probably play a lame duck year. And if he does, like, I think the most likely scenarios, like what makes up 90% of the probability, is either the Seahawks release him or trade him for not very much, or he gets extended. But a very small part of that is a starting quarterback goes into the final year of his contract with no extension. And so if you had to do one of those things, if you took your thing where you want him to play the final year of his contract, that I don't think he's going to do either way. What do you think between those two choices, release him or extend him, what do you want to do?
I think the extension will be. I'm happy to give him a second. Like, let's go $30 million a year again. Like we'll add one more year to it if that what makes you stick around. I don't think he's gonna get 55 on the open market like he maybe thinks he is. If he was hitting it this year, maybe, and he came out fully healthy, but he hit the open market. What was it, 2 years ago or whatever, or last year, and like they signed him to a pretty reasonable extension because no other team was like believing necessarily. Now he's got more of a body of work, but I also think like we have the leverage. So like sit for a year, like, know.
And they do have Sam Howell in that circumstance. Right? What about if you get him for the Baker Mayfield contract, 3 years, $100 million?
Great. Love it. Yeah.
All right. I'm on board with that. I'm like skeptical that he's the guy. I'd like there to be a guy in waiting. And I don't know that Sam Howell is that.
He's not going to be the guy who is like, what do they call it? Franchise quarterback. I think he's just below that top 5 tier where he's like top 10 quarterback. He's capable of any throw and he's a lot more agile than people give him credit for. And
yeah, I was gonna tell you like his what he's done with his legs this year is better than he has been in his whole career. And a kind of cool thing about Geno is he didn't play for so long that he's stayed like pretty healthy. And you know that thing where you'll always hear people say like, if I knew now what I know then, because the reason people say that is because they go like, I was in my physical prime then, and now I'm in my like mental prime. But he, to a degree, has like not lost anything physically, and then just spent 10 years studying the game of football, not on the field.
Right. Youth is wasted on the young, right?
Yeah, that's another good one. Yeah.
If you can have like, 36-year-old Tim Duncan's mind with 21-year-old Tim Duncan's body, amazing. Yeah. So I think he's fully capable. I just think that you need a team around him. Like, you need to keep him upright. You need to, like, he's not going to take over a game. And
I
he's
gotta send you a Tim Duncan
like
story
where he's going to scoot around. But, like, if you give him a time, he'll make the right decision, which is hard enough as a quarterback.
I got to send you a Tim Duncan story after the podcast. It is not. I don't want to be the one that's introducing this story to our.
I think. Is it the story about his wife cheating on him and then him paying $7 million?
It's not that story, but it's not quite that story. Okay. It's related to that story. If you're
like stole all of his money and
I think it's related to that story. But you can if you just want to Google like Tim Duncan comedian, I think you might find what I'm talking about. The Tampa Bay Rays. You're familiar with this? Is that my? Oh no! Hold on. I want to talk about the Seahawks for one more thing because we'll get the Seattle topics out of the way.
Thank you.
DK Metcalf is having the best season he's had statistically since 2020, his second season, to start the year, and that's with like obviously a couple down games in a row. Also comes with the DK stuff. It's not all gone. I will say, like, he hasn't, to my knowledge, he hasn't had like a really stupid penalty yet this year. He's had a couple turnovers, but not a stupid penalty. So there seems to be like a maturation. What's your feeling on DK? Do they extend DK? Do you trade DK? What do you do with DK?
Yeah, there was a poll going around Twitter the other day that was like, do you give up DK for a first and a third round pick? And it's smart because, like, if you trade him for that first round pick might become DK Metcalf, so it's like, or it could become Jackson Smith and Jigba, who likes to drop passes in crucial situations. So, when you got one of the biggest, fastest, strongest guys on the planet who is incredible at football and incredibly sexy, you've got to give him up for something that's unknown.
But I think the problem is it's not just
draft picks for Jamal Adams someday. We never know what those draft picks could be. So I pay DK every dollar he wants and give him part ownership of the franchise if he asks for it. I know you're going to deal with some DK stuff, but you know what? He's just the biggest, fastest. Although he is, what's funny? I didn't realize how small he was compared to Calvin Johnson until
I
I
saw
saw
that
them
picture
next to
too.
each other. And it was that meme of like a Chrysler 300 looks like a Phantom until you pull up next to a Phantom and you're like, oh, fuck that.
Yeah, I also saw a bunch of comments on that apparently Calvin Johnson, they believe, was actually 6'7", but it's like when Kevin Durant didn't want to be called a 7-footer, where he's like, because there's not really 6'7"
6'11".
receivers
Yeah.
that are yeah. So like he didn't want to be made a tight end because he was 6'7". So I thought that was interesting. A couple things about DK. One, yeah, obviously the difference between him and the guy, this like first round receiver. By the way, there's tons of receivers coming into the NFL that are quality every year now. It's like a position they've really figured out how to scout and develop. You're not paying that guy $30 million a year, or probably after this year again, like $40 million, $50 million a year. Whatever CeeDee Lamb got, I'm sure that he'll get a little bit more than CeeDee Lamb got. That's the way those contracts go. Not that he's better, just like he'll probably become the highest paid receiver when the time comes. The other thing about DK, I got a question for you. How many Super Bowls did Randy Moss win?
None, right?
Yeah. How many Super Bowls have the Chiefs won since they traded Tyreek Hill away?
Oh yeah, like all of them.
Yeah. So like I agree with you. I agree with what you're saying, but I just think like the teams that have spent on receiver historically do not end up like having sustained success. And I don't know what you do, because like this guy's great. Somebody's going to pay him. You want to keep him on your team. All things being equal, if he was still on a rookie deal, I don't think you'd be considering it. But everything all in, like I think it's a harder decision. And I'm first and a third, by the way. That's what AJ Brown got while he was still on his rookie contract.
Yeah.
The Seahawks are not going to get a first and a third for DK Metcalf. There's not a chance.
Hopefully a first, but again, that's the problem with trading these guys is like you're just never going to get the value back that's necessary. Like I would happily trade Geno for a first rounder, but no one's going to give up a first rounder for him probably. Like yeah. I would take those chances with Sam Howell and give me another first round pick, and maybe we can make some magic happen. Because I think Sam Howell is good enough, and if maybe you give him a couple lucky, give him maybe a couple maturation process behind. I mean, who knows? Every work ethic is different. It's not Madden where they just automatically level up or whatever. So, but yeah DK is the real conundrum because he just is like. But then the fumbles are so like, it's tough because like any other receiver would already be tackled 5 yards ago, but he's like trying to bulldoze through 8 guys, and then the last guy gets a hand in there as he's falling to the ground. And
it's interesting to have him, and the full other side of the spectrum is Tyler Lockett, who he's he's fallen down.
He falls down 5 yards before the contact.
He gets tackled by the hash marks on a regular basis, and I don't know, I don't know what's better, because Tyler Lockett does not have the body type of a guy that you would think could take a decade of the NFL beating, and he has been pretty healthy his whole career. So I get both sides of that, and yeah, I don't know. So I guess like the Mariners are.
But I think with a guy, just to cap this off, I think Geno is the quarterback that needs a guy like DK to be successful.
That's interesting. Okay.
Where Patrick Mahomes, great. We'll just buy 18 7th round draft picks that all run fast and have no hands, and we'll do the shovel play 8 times a game and see what happens. I don't think Geno's quite that guy, so I think you need that 60-yard deep threat that's just going to run by everybody to kind of open up the rest of the options.
Yeah, I think that's possible. I see the logic.
So with saving money on a quarterback by buying really flashy rims, it's like the car is the quarterback. Hopefully not Derek Carr, but did you see the stat about Derek Carr always balls out in election years? Because he's
that's so crazy.
Yeah,
that's so funny. I did not.
So
see
he was
that.
starting to have that year again, but he got hurt again. So
that's so funny. He's like Alex Jones. He's the Alex Jones of football, where he makes all of his money in election years.
He's the JD Vance because they both wear eye black and.
So we're like in baseball off season, obviously. We're in the postseason for for Seattle fans.
I didn't know what the postseason was. I've never heard of it before.
Who are you rooting for?
Nobody.
Did you at the beginning of the playoffs? Was there anyone you were rooting for?
No, I don't care. I don't have any. I want the Yankees to lose. Basically, that's kind of the thing.
Sure.
Everyone's kind of jerking off over the Mets and going, "Oh, Cinderella." I'm like, "Yeah, with the highest payroll in baseball. Like, wow, you really did it." You know,
in the biggest market. Also,
yeah,
it's not like they just pumped it up for a year.
You know, it might be cool to see them win. I don't know. Is Detroit still in it?
No, Cleveland is the one non-superpower. There's the Yankees, the Mets, the Dodgers, and then Cleveland has like a third their portion of they are 10% of the remaining payroll in a 4-team race at this point.
So yeah, I mean, I did see the stat that Aaron Judge sucks in the playoffs, which is really interesting to me. I don't know how you're that good at baseball and then is it a crunch time thing or is it just? But he's got they like intentionally walk Juan Soto to get to Aaron Judge now, and they're. I mean, who would have thought that day would be a thing? But yeah, so I don't know. I just hope everybody has fun, and I hope we get to experience postseason baseball someday.
That would be nice. You're telling me the one wild card appearance wasn't enough to satiate you for another 2 decades?
No, you know, Robbie Ray can go fuck himself, and I'm just so mad at them wasting a generational rotation, one of the best ever, and then, I mean, there's all these, you know, Gilbert's fucking on an incredible run, and it just is such a bummer to be a baseball fan in Seattle. And it sucks too, because it's like if Julio had a normal year, it's probably a 3-game division winning team, you know, like just because everyone else sucked all year and we had such a good shot. I don't understand. It's not fair.
What's interesting about that is I get what you're saying about Julio, but the period of time where the Mariners, like where it fell apart, was actually the stretch of baseball where he played pretty well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he played a lot better in the second half, and they obviously like.
Well, yeah, but I mean that what was it like the 10 game lead in like 20 days disappeared or something? Like half that was Julio on the IR, I think, and stuff that.
That's probably true.
Yeah, you know, that's a good point. I did see a little stat. I mean, I didn't fact check it or anything, but it compared Julio and Ken Griffey Jr. and like the first couple seasons are very similar, and so you're like, but just as this guy who's like so good and like clearly capable of so much better, for him to just bat 196 to start the season, it just is crushing, because that gets everyone else going, and then, you know, I mean, it was literally like 3 games is the difference that and we still had a shot in the second half, and we had, you know, it's just. And then this is just the pain of baseball is like we just started blowing saves in the second half for no reason, when it was literally like, God, just get me to the 8th inning and we'll be fine. Inning 6 through 7, you know, inning 6 through 8, we were like, who knows what's going to happen? And then if we get our closer in there, and then the closer starts blowing games, and you're like, this is supposed to be the best part of the game, and it's just a terrible team to watch.
Yeah, I'm trying to find what the how far the Mariners were ahead or behind when they had Sunday Night Baseball, because that was his return from
the IL.
And my memory is that they were
back early because he like never played on Sunday Night Baseball, and then he sucked up for another week. And
yeah, I mean he definitely, but overall he ends up having like like if you take it all in together, he has a pretty good season. There were stretches where he was just like completely inept, and obviously he's historically been pretty bad at the beginning of seasons.
Now, is that like swing coach stuff? Is that mental? Is that like?
Tell me if you remember this, because the whole city fell in love with him. Obviously, like the beginning of his career, and then he has like in 2023, he starts out slow, but then by the end of the year, you're very excited. Did it seem to you like he was at everything? Like he was raising the 12th man flag, and he was just like, and I'm not saying he's lazy, or I'm just saying like,
You say he needs to focus on football, is what you're saying.
Yeah, he shut up and dribble is what. No, I think I wonder if there was a thing where it's like you're 22 years old,
superstar soccer player, and he's got a new contract with $1 billion. Maybe.
Sure, yeah. Not that I like, super talented. I'm sure he works very hard in the off season. I would not say that like. There were times when you'd see like Freddie Garcia or Felix Hernandez, and you'd be like, these guys are like out of shape early in the season.
Yeah.
I didn't feel that way about Julio. I don't know what the thing is. I just, by the way, Mike Hansen says Andrew is making me depressed. Poor guy. I thought I took the Hawks losses tough. By the way, Mike Hansen is opening for me tonight at Tracyton Movie House in Bremerton, Washington. So come on out to that, folks, if you live in Kitsap County or surrounding areas, because I'm sure there's still tickets available.
I'll be in Bremerton November 9th, actually. So if Casey's open, I'll need him on that show maybe.
We'll see. Let's see. We'll talk about it after, because that is my mom's birthday. Happy birthday, Mom. We'll see what we're doing that day.
Shit, she told me not to book anything on that date. I hope she's okay.
No. She might finally break up with you. Okay, so I think like the Mariners, the like spending discourse I'm sick of, because they're not going to do it. They're not going to spend like the Yankees and the Dodgers and all them. So like it's pointless to keep talking about it, in my opinion.
Well, also the Guardians, didn't they get one of those shortstops, right? That was like the $200 million guy that we were all like, wait, when we sign one of these guys, it'll change everything. And then he's been below expectation there. Now they're in the playoffs and stuff, but it's tough. The free agency thing I agree with, because it's like, just because you spend that $200 million, I mean, we saw that with Robinson Cano, where it's like, just because you buy the shiny new toy doesn't mean all your other problems don't exist either. So there's not one guy, and they Victor Robles, they sign him for nothing, and he's about to go play in Japan, and then all of a sudden he's better than Julio, and we're like, wait a second, that guy saved the whole season. It's the only reason we were even competitive this year. So it's tough. And then Polanco got hurt, who was pretty good at the beginning of the season, and then it's just bad luck, and so whatever it is about
but that's what payroll does. That's what spending does, is it allows you to make mistakes and to have failures and not have them be like, if your whole season is resting on Jorge Polanco, who, by the way, I was happy with the trade, and I think he could be a very good player. They have an option to pick him up. I can't imagine if the only money you have to spend is either on Jorge Polanco or somebody else with the money you would have otherwise paid, then spend it on someone else, I guess.
What are you going to get with this imaginary trade? Oh, let's just trade the farm for another guy who might suck. And you're like, well, I don't know,
Yeah. Well, and also like
first baseman that everyone was trying to get us.
Pete Alonso.
Yeah, everyone was like, get Pete. Oh, great. Another 210 power hitting first baseman. Like, great. That's going to solve our issues, And
also people like, and you did this with the pitching staff, but it's a thing that bugs me, is they don't understand that this ballpark suppresses offense. So they're like, the pitching staff's great. The offense is bad, especially in T-Mobile Park. There's no way those two things are connected. There's no way this pitching staff, who like when they're on the road, they're about like a 10th best in the league pitching staff or something like that. There's no way they're really good in T-Mobile, and the offense that's like a middle of the pack offense on the road is really bad in T-Mobile, there's no way we can connect the dots and realize these things are related to the ballpark itself, you know?
Right. Didn't Teoscar Hernandez have like insane home road splits when he was a Mariner, and then he left and joined the Dodgers, and now he's balling out again? And,
Yeah, did you see his comments at the All-Star break?
Something about the batter's eye sucks or something like that.
But I remember that literally goes back to like Alex Rodriguez and Ken Griffey Jr. talking about that. And those guys, when that park opened, I remember them talking about how like Alex Rodriguez said that he hit a ball in like early spring, like early season in April, as hard as he could to center field. This is why he started doing steroids, I imagine, is because he gets to Safeco Field, he hits the ball as hard as he can to center field, and it's like he doesn't even hit the warning track, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not just home runs, by the way. I mean, strikeouts are crazy in that stadium. It's everything. So, but
and they moved the walls in already. So I mean,
right.
You know, pickleball has become a big thing now, right? Where it's just half tennis. I think the Mariners could use like a half size home.
Yeah, that's
field,
good.
You know?
That's good. Well, I want to talk about the most important thing in all of baseball, which is not the Mariners and how they will not spend. But because of the hurricanes in Florida, the Tampa Bay Rays are not going to be able to play in Tropicana at the beginning of the season. I don't know what the time frame is, and of course, you know, our hearts as a comedy sports podcast, our hearts, we have to be somber, and of course we are sad for the people of Florida. But where do you want to see the Rays play? What Oklahoma City Thunder type steal of a franchise do you want? What place do you want to see a franchise get stolen to as a result of the Rays playing there?
I think they should play with the open roof. I mean,
I actually thought that too. It's warm in Florida.
It's warm in Florida. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
it's probably rainy though.
Isn't that like the least attended ballpark in the
just put a fucking tarp over it and
trying to build a new one. Yeah, I mean, come on, yeah, how many homes in Florida just have a blue tarp over the house? And do you see those guys on TikTok that put like the trucker things over their roof?
Yeah, the ratchet straps. Yeah.
So
that was amazing.
Throw a couple of those on Tropicana, and we could have prevented all this situation.
Dude, I got to tell you, I see that ratchet strap thing, and I see people making fun of it, and I'm still like, I think that might be a good idea, though.
It might have worked for most people, you know? So, ratchets will do what they do, you know? Aren't the Oakland A's playing in like a double A ball stadium or whatever? So
yeah, Sacramento.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a baseball stadium around there that like, what's the sellout at the Rainiers Park? Like 10,000 people or something like that?
Oh yeah, let's see. Cheney Stadium capacity. I bet it's less than 10,000.
Gotta be like 12 or 8 or something in that range.
6,500, baby.
Wow. Yeah, so like okay, now look up the average Tropicana attendance and because I know I watched a YouTube video about how they built the stadium in a bad part of town and no one goes to, there's no public transportation, and
sure.
So no one goes to the games anyway, and the team sucks.
So this says in 2023 the average attendance was 17,781, but I don't know if that's. But I don't, you know, sometimes teams will kind of fudge those.
Stadium though, that's awful, you know, like
sure.
Like
they were at 16.5 last year,
and I sell 100 tickets. I'm getting paid, but
I've always said you're the Tampa Bay Rays of baseball.
Yeah, I'm the Tampa Bay Rays of comedy.
Of comedy. That's what I mean.
I'm not filling these venues, so you got to lower your standards. Where should they go? Yeah, what's a good? I think they should have to play in like New England or like, you know, just a. Does Montreal have a team? Aren't they talking about bringing the Expos back? Maybe.
Well, that's the place that people are talking about. Montreal would be good. They have a stadium. Who knows what they have to do?
Isn't their stadium also like a tarp over a dome? Also?
It's a dome. It's a dome. It's they might have called it the Expo Dome. If they didn't, that's what they should call it now. The former Washington Nationals, or they became the Washington Nationals. I think if you could put a team in Portland, that would be very exciting. It's geographically very far away, though. I think they got to put it on the East Coast is the problem.
Yeah, I mean, the players have to live there, you know what I mean, for half the year. So I think about their schedule is insane too. Like I complain about my travel schedule and stuff, and I'm like, they're playing a game 6 nights a week and staying in. I'm sure they're not in a La Quinta like I am, but they're still. It's got to be miserable. I mean, I could cry over a couple $1 million, but
I think the worst thing about traveling for comedy is not being on a plane. It's patterning your entire day around having to get to the airport and being at the airport for an extended period of time. You got to be there in advance. You got to be there. If you're checking a bag, you got to stay and wait for your bag to come out. Your flight gets delayed. You have to hang out there longer. And if you're a Major League Baseball player, that flight leaves the moment you are ready. Like, granted, I'm sure if you're taking 40 flights a year, it probably is that wears on you too. I'm not doubting that. But yes, I think that the toughest part of I worked with Tom Segura recently, and I did not ride in his private jet, but immediately after the flight, like literally, they worked with me in Spokane.
You were still on stage when he was like circling the airport, right?
Oh, dude, yeah, he was. I know that they were there while I was on stage because he like saw my set or whatever.
Boo from behind
but it was not by much. Like it was not. I bet you they showed up to the arena within an hour of the show starting. Damn. And their next night was in somewhere like Alberta or something like that. And they flew there that night. Like they were they posted pictures that night of being in Alberta, Canada. Damn. The same night as I work with them, they like flew to Alberta. So that was, to me, I was like, oh, I get like why you would want a private jet. I've never thought I always thought that was so stupid. And then you're like, oh, well, if your whole life depends on getting as much shit done in the smallest amount of time, and every hour for you is like a $50,000 an hour thing, you're like, yeah, of course you save the 8 hours and don't even fly first class. You just fly private.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You know that. You know, obviously, that $50,000 an hour, you know what that's like.
Lucky if I get 50,000 a year, but yeah, I get to meet Brian Regan in a similar scenario, and he was playing the Tri-Cities, and the next night
they only let you do one of the cities.
Oh yeah. And so they fly into Portland and they get on a bus, and the bus brings them to Tri-Cities, and then the bus brings them back to Portland that night, and then they wake up in Portland and do the Portland show. But yeah, it's similar. Like, why would you stay in why would you spend your day traveling? Which I've tried to explain to Steve Hofstetter a couple times, but the 6 nights a week in a different city every night really will fuck with you.
Yeah.
But just happen to be on the tour.
Yeah.
So
the closest thing I've done to that is I stayed in Bozeman, and I did Townsend, Montana, Helena, Billings, and Bozeman, all like and you're like, and that's like everything's far away too, so it does kind of feel like that, like a tour bus, and you're like,
yeah.
At some point you're like, I've seen all of Montana and I've seen none of Montana. I've been driving for 25 hours in 4 days. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The old triple runs used to get you ready for that, but those don't exist anymore. Thank God.
Yeah. Not rest in peace, but he retired, right?
Retire in peace, and then start a GoFundMe. And
great. Thank you
I
for
gave him $100.
Thank you for booking me twice.
Here's a feature gig for you.
Okay. I don't even know why I feel bad. Like he never did anything to me, but I'm like, I almost want to be like, all right, Dad, that's the end of this. No, but I do want to end the podcast and go apologize to Dave Tribble. So it is nice. One cool thing I will say is you hear like a lot of legendary comedians talk about Tribble runs, and it has been kind of cool to me to be like, I've done the same shitty gigs as Joey Diaz, you know?
Yeah. They were sort of a rite of passage, I think about this a lot too, because like I produce a lot of my own shows now, and so like I'm booking the lineup, and it's kind of you want the best talent possible, but you don't want to pay them what they're worth.
Sure,
that comes out of my check.
So you book me on October 25th at Ricardo's.
Look, you're happy to take gigs, but I'm just thinking of like, sometimes I book someone who I'm like, it's a little newer and it might be a tough, but people did that for me when I sucked.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was like, you need that time on stage. It's really like, you know, you need safe places to bomb and learn a lesson, you know, in a way. And you need people that believe in you anyway and go, they'll figure it out next time. And
Yeah, Gabe Rutledge was that guy for me, and I try to be that too, where it's like people, I like to get like, if you're opening for me, it's not going to be a prestigious gig. So I'm like, and not Mike Hansen. Mike Hansen, actually, this might be the first time he's ever featured for me, but Mike, I know Mike can feature. There's people though that I'm like, yeah, you come do this. We'll see. It could go really bad. I'm going to enjoy watching it either way. That's actually the most important thing to me. I want to enjoy watching it, whether it goes good or bad. I want to think that person's funny so that I can watch a funny person bomb instead of a shitty person bomb. You know what I mean?
Right. So it's just tough to, you know, put it all together. But as long as you got a good camera, you can come do 20 minutes in front of me. I don't give a shit.
I got a good camera and a car that runs, baby. That's the two.
Well, it used to be you just had a Corolla and you could get good gas mileage and headliners buy your gas tank. Now it's like, who's got the best camera?
That's right. I have a very nice camera, folks. So
you do have. I'm gonna have to ask you. I'm gonna have to stop relying on other people eventually. But Zach Fisher has started to be my since Luke moved away. You know.
Yeah. Well, this is we've devolved into what we could talk about this off the podcast.
Oh,
but
okay, cool.
let's get this once we say Zach Fisher's name, we've gone too far into the comedy weeds. I'm gonna play this music real quick and we'll end the podcast, and then I'm happy to talk to you for
Go Mariners.
All right.
The Seahawks are gonna win this weekend, by the way.
Good. Oh, one comment. Mike Hansen.
I need a camera. Yeah. Step it up.